Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Schmoedown Rundown. Introducing first, Frankie Stats Janisch. And their co-host, the man of controversy, Mr. Brian the Duke David. And finally, your host, Aaron Turner. Let's get ready to Schmoedown.
What's going on, Movie Trivia Schmoedown fans? It's a special edition of the Schmoedown Rundown with a very special guest you will hear later in this episode. It's the Beast, William Bibbiani. Hashtag it, growl, growl. He will be joining us. A great interview from him. I think you guys are really, really going to enjoy that. But let's get into previews. We have two this week. A late edition. We have John Humphrey of The Real Rejects versus Marc, the android Andreyko. A bit of MVPs going against each other from the free-for-all. So let me kick it to you, Frank. Who do you think's going to win? Who do you got?
This is kind of iffy because Andreyko, he's been wishy-washy to me. I know he had that great debut against Bibbiani. He had an okay showing. I guess okay, being okay is a little generous when he faced Jay Washington. He had a horrible second round, if you remember, the Star Wars category. When he was in stock, even though it doesn't count against his record, he lost to Makuga, and he wasn't that great as well. So I don't know what Andreyko we're going to get. I've said this before when this match first came up on the schedule. John Humphrey, he had a pretty decent showing in the free-for-all. And I only say decent because he only answered 51% correct, even though he managed to get through 11 rounds. That's still quite a feat, and he hung with some of the best the league has to offer. So I'm torn, but I will say Andreyko just because I think his ceiling is much higher. So, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's still going to be a pretty tight match.
Well, Brian, what do you think? Who impresses here? Does John Humphrey continue to impress us, or do we continue to be impressed by the android? What do you think?
Well, I just want to say I'm impressed by how refreshed you sound, Mr. Rundown.
I did. I got to spend some time with some family, and that's always fun. And my nephew and I got to do Thomas the Train stuff, so that's a lot of fun.
So you played cards with your brother's kids. Okay. That's a Tombstone reference, folks.
Well, it was my sister's kids, but anyway, I digress. What do you think of this matchup?
Well, I know it sounds harsh, but I don't put much stock into anyone's free-for-all performance. I like Jason Lee Humphrey, but sticking around at a point during the free-for-all when it was a battle of attrition just doesn't move the needle for me when it comes to singles and team match evaluations. Even our singles champion, Marc Riley, was awful during the first half of free-for-all. So I'm going with Andreyko because he's faced tougher competition than Jason Lee, regardless of his win-loss record. He even went toe-to-toe with a record-breaking performance by our guest. And as cool as Android's free-for-all moment was, it doesn't impact my decision to pick him as a singles play in this case, as singles play is a different beast altogether. So you can pencil in Android as the winner this week. You can even use a shark.
I feel like you're kind of underselling John Humphrey a little bit. I can't agree with your free-for-all analysis. I think he was fantastic, and I know maybe he wasn't in there with the heaviest hitters, but he lasted quite a long time, but that's not easy to do, as we saw, like you said, Marc Riley didn't last very long, and some other people that we thought may last did not. So that being said, I'm still going to pick Marc Andreyko, but I just wanted to get out there that I do support John Humphrey, and I hope to see him in more singles competitions. I think the guy, if nothing else, is incredibly entertaining.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, guys. And now I promised you at the beginning of the episode that we would speak to William the Beast Bibbiani, and you're going to hear that right now. What's going on, Movie Trivia Schmoedown fans? We are joined today, a very special guest for a very special episode. He is the one and only, the Beast, hashtag it growl growl, Mr. William Bibbiani. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Growl, growl to you, too. I always love how you say hashtag it, as if it's a command. Hashtag it, growl, growl.
Well, it's an authoritative statement, so you have to hashtag it. Make sure you use it, the hashtag growl, growl. I think it's the only catchphrase in the Schmoedown that has an accompanying hashtag, and I find that fascinating. But let's start there. Let's start there, because a while before you competed that you came to the shows and you watched and you were, memorizing questions and saying like, oh, I can answer all those. So when you finally got your chance, when you faced Marc in one of the greatest matches we've ever seen, what was the feeling like when you finally got in there?
It was one of the greatest matches, wasn't it? That was a great day. I'd been on the set for a few other matches before that. In fact, the first match I ever witnessed live was the classic Harloff Roca blindfold match, which was a great way to start, honestly. But yeah, for a while then I had been like, hey, put me in, coach. I'm ready to play. And I got there. I came with my duds, my accoutrement, and everyone was just like, you're really going all out, aren't you? And I'm like, well, hell yeah, I'm going all out. Why would I not? Half the reason to go on the show is to show how good you are at movie trivia, and the other half is to wear awesome costumes. So that was a lot of fun. I was able to sort of rally people around me to be, to help corral the beast, introduce the beast to the world fully formed. And that was a lot of fun. And I've heard people sort of critique my intro saying, oh, he's using up all his energy right at the beginning. Getting your adrenaline going right at the start of a match, getting your blood flowing, getting the oxygen going to your brain is a really, really, really great way to get going. And it's one of the reasons why I think one of my first rounds typically tend to be my best rounds. Because I am in it, I am excited, I am pumped up, and all of my energy is right there on the stage for the trivia. So that was really great. And the other thing was, in that particular match, it's, the match in which we both got pretty much every question right. Marc and Andreyko only missed one. There was this sort of energy in the room as we realized, oh man, no one's actually screwing up in this match. Like it's going to come down to the last question, no matter what anyone does at this point. And it was a real thrill that it still hasn't quite been matched by any other thing I've been to, except maybe the free-for-all, but that was such a different entity. It's not quite the same thing.
Coming right off the heels of that victory, you were recruited into just stable called the Four Horsemen right away by one John Roca. What do you think of John Roca?
Oh, well, you're just asking the easy questions right off the bat, aren't you? John Roca is one of the great personalities of the league. He's one of the biggest personalities of the league, that's for sure. And you have to admire John Roca for his loudness and his boisterousness and his personality, and yes, to an extent, also his skill. John Roca was a person who I didn't really know terribly well until he offered me a role in the Four Horsemen. And he offered me that role without any preamble. I didn't know what the heck he was talking about. I just liked being a part of something. That's the thing about the Beast. The Beast doesn't get out much. The Beast spends all of his time chained to a wall watching movies. It's a lonely experience being a film critic and being this obsessive over the art that you love. And it leads to the Beast desperately trying to get his voice heard and to prove that he's worthy. So, yeah, someone wants me to join a club, I will join the club. And then I found out what the club actually entailed, and that was a little different. And here we are today.
Oh, man. So, off of that, the Beast character, it sounds like a story. I like that a lot. But let's talk about your signature catchphrase for just a half a second here, because we talked about it in the intro. Where did you come up with growl growl?
I'm going to tell you right now about growl growl. Growl growl is a reference that no one has got yet. And I don't want to reveal where growl growl came from until someone gets the reference. Oh, so okay. I'm going to give that as a challenge right now to my growling commandos. If you can find out where I got growl growl from, I will give you a shout out on Twitter and mad props from the Beast. So it is a pop culture reference. It's a bit obscure. I don't expect you to know off the top of your head, but it's out there, and I'd be very curious if anyone figures it out.
And don't Google it. Actually try and do some research to find out what it is. So
sure, why not? Yeah, even if you Google it, it's just the word growl twice. You're going to have a little trouble.
Did you think that your particular character or the growl growl catchphrase would take off like it has? Because it seems to be, in terms of Schmoedown characters, you're one of the most popular. Do you ever think it would be that way?
I actually have a hard time believing it when people tell me I'm one of the most popular. I love it. I love every single part of that, and I plan to lead authoritatively and with strength and intelligence and power and growliness. But no, actually, you don't know these things. You don't know these things at all. And if the Beast didn't take on, it's possible he might have evolved into something very, very different. But yeah, it sprang from my love of the Thomas Harris Hannibal Lecter novels and some of the adaptations thereof. It sprang from wanting to be an intimidating presence beyond simply my force of knowledge. And it thrills me that people have embraced it and that they like seeing my performances and that it's caught on and other people keep referencing it. Like when we challenge the hated Lion's Den, they can't just talk smack about me. They have to talk smack about the Beast. They have to talk smack about the catchphrase. Why? Because you can't get past it. It's too powerful. It's too strong. You can't ignore it.
Hi, William. Brian Davids here. Can you set the record straight regarding scores and soundtracks? Is it really the weakness that people think it is, or was the JTE match an aberration? And how rigorous has your training been to make up for the JTE match?
Oh, the JTE match was a bit of an embarrassment. Certainly it's not how I intended my second match to go. But when it comes to scores and soundtracks in particular, I think perhaps it's taken on a life of its own unnecessarily. I got a few questions wrong in that round, and it looks like I got a lot more wrong than I did because I had gotten over 20 questions right, I think, in a row by that point. So it looks like a huge weakness. It's really not. And if you look at my original match, my first match against Andreyko, I got scores and soundtracks questions. I got them right. If you look at me in the free-for-all, I got scores and soundtracks questions. I got them right. When I'm playing Kristian this week, he said scores and soundtracks is going to be on the wheel. I hope I get scores and soundtracks because I want to show that I actually know my scores and soundtracks, and I didn't know a couple. Yeah, okay. It's not my greatest expertise. I'm the first to admit that. And yeah, I've been studying. I've been doing exactly what I did back when I was in high school, back when IMDb was first invented. I sat down, I started memorizing it because who knew how long that was going to last on the internet? Fortunately, it lasted as long as it did. I've been sitting down, I've been looking at great composers, great soundtracks, memorizing as much as I can every winner and nominee for Best Original Score at the Academy Awards. I've been doing my research, I've been humbled a little bit, and the only thing to do is to buckle down and get it straight next time.
Hi, Beast. Where did... and it sounds great when you say that. It's pretty
Mr.
awesome.
Beast?
Yeah, the Beast. Now,
Sir
the Beast,
Beast?
like Roka was the outlaw. He has thought about this character and to bring it into the Schmoedown, as we have talked about it with him before. I'm wondering, were you the Beast pre-Schmoedown, or did you think of this going into the Schmoedown, or how did it come about exactly?
The Beast emerged when the Schmoedown enlisted him. I honestly, I don't really have much of a persona when it comes to my typical work. I know some critics do. They have an angry critic persona or a particular fanboy persona that they try to take on for certain audiences, and that's perfectly reasonable, and I totally get it. For me, I've always been just kind of muddling through, trying to figure out where I stand in the state of things, and that was actually one of the great things about The Beast, was that The Beast gave me an opportunity, kind of for the first time, to become a character, to become an entity. I talked a bit about what I think of as the Beast's backstory. He lives in isolation. He is basically in a jail cell, and there have been times in my life when I felt like that, when it was just me working my butt off, writing criticism, often for free, desperately trying to make a name for myself so that I could eventually make a career in this industry. And whenever I did get out to do what I had to do, the schmoozing, the socializing, even with folks like the Schmoes back before they became as big as they did, I always felt incredibly awkward. And I wanted to create a character who sort of embodied the positive qualities and the negative qualities of that. One thing about the Beast is that he's kind of a shameless self-promoter. And he's really bad at it too, as you may have noticed. It's really awkward and uncomfortable. And that's how I feel every time I have to promote my own stuff. I always have this feeling, speaking as William Bibbiani and not the Beast, that self-promotion is rude. That it's sort of egomaniacal to say, oh, but my stuff is so great. You should put me on your show. And no matter how many years I do this now, I still always have this inkling of it. And the Beast gets to just come out and say it. And it warms my heart that some people love him for it. While other people see him as something of a villain for it. And I kind of feel both ways because I get where it's coming from. He is alone. He is eager to get his voice out there. He's eager to prove himself. So, yeah, I guess in a way, I was the Beast, but I was the Beast quite a few years ago before I made it. And I get to sort of relive that persona now and look at it from a different perspective.
William, the Schmoedown has continually evolved for the better. However, what is something you'd like to see from a player standpoint?
Oh, that's an interesting question. That's a really good question. And honestly, I think Harloff has really implemented a lot of really, really great ideas that I think have made it better. I think one of the questions that people often have about the Schmoedown is, did someone just beat the other player or was bad luck on their side? And I think his choice to make the first round a round in which we all get the same questions helps make it a more direct competition than I think even the later rounds do. I think if you lose in the first round, the other opponent beat you. I think if you lose in the later rounds, you could argue that you beat yourself. So I kind of like more of that. I would like to see more event matches. I loved the free-for-all. I'd love to do more stuff like it. I know that they're a real pain to organize and put together and plan and create a rule set for. But it was so much fun, and I know everyone liked watching it. That I'd love to see more of that. The other thing on my fantasy is I would like to see for the players is at least one or two more belts. I think we've got the Inner Geekdom belt, which is great. I think we've got, obviously, the solo and the team belts, and those are great. And then we have a Star Wars belt, which really proves that the Schmoedown was created by people who love Star Wars. Because you notice we don't have any other franchise as its own belt. There are franchises that have gone a hell of a lot longer than Star Wars. I mean, there's no Godzilla belt. There's a Star Wars belt. And I get it. People love Star Wars. But there's a Star Wars belt. I would like to see, perhaps, somewhere down the road, a horror belt. Or a Disney belt. There's at least a handful of other belts that we could at least operate on a semi-regular basis that have, or at the very least that represent a fandom, a fan base that is just as fervent as Star Wars fans are. So that would be my dream, is to help expand that a bit and also focus it occasionally in another direction. And if there's a horror belt, I want in.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about a certain quote of yours. You trained me? So when will that thread be pulled on? Because at some point it has to be pulled on, right?
You know, Rocha fancies himself a leader. And that's a great thing to be. I wish he'd start leading. That would be fantastic. We don't seem to be any meetings. You know, he claims he trained me. I've been doing this for many years before I even met him. And now that I've met him, first thing he does is invite me onto his stable. Like, oh, here's a guy who knows all the answers to the questions. Let's join the team. And I'm like, okay, great team. Let's do it. And then what? What do I get from this? All right. I'm part of one T-shirt where I'm on the side and they join me on like an intro once. Like where's the leadership is basically, that's it. And I want that. You know, we need that from a leader. If we're going to have a leader, there should be some leadership. So if Rocha fancies himself a leader, I encourage him to put the money where his mouth is. In the meantime, we're still horse bros, you know, horse persons for life, and that's fine. But you know, you can, you know, if Star Wars has taught us anything, is that it's possible to sort of separate from your family and not always agree with them about everything. But then they'll, like, you know, recant on their deathbed, and it's totally okay that they killed billions of people. And that's totally fine. Everyone forgives them. They put your head with Mickey Mouse ears and give it to children as if that's okay. And you can, like, star in an animated show that's aimed at little kids, and that's totally fine, and no one sees any irony in that. And that's Rocha.
Okay.
I look forward to hearing this on a promo package one day. Thank you, William.
I noticed a minute ago you said, you know, you talked about the Beast being alone and stuff like that, and I know you have the four horsemen by your side, but is there a possibility, and I would be kicking myself if I didn't ask this question, Is there a possibility, you may know where I'm going with this, that your podcast partner from the B-Movies podcast, from Cancel Too Soon, that Whitney Seibold may join you in this Schmoedown endeavor? Can you give us any information?
Well, I can neither confirm nor deny anything at the moment, but Whitney has publicly stated that he wants in. I have publicly stated on multiple occasions that I do want a partner, and whether that is Whitney or another fan favorite character from the Schmoedown, or possibly another horse person, there have been conversations. The team match appeals to me on a couple of different levels, partially because I want to play more often. At best now, I play maybe once a month. I would love to play twice a month. I would play every single week if they let me. I love doing this. It's a fun show, and it also caters to the theater kid inside of me, who is now occasionally on the outside of me playing the Beast. Team matches are, barring unbelievable tragedy, inevitable for me. Who my partner is still up for discussion, but yeah, you better believe Whitney and I have at least talked about it.
Okay, that's good to know. Now, you talked about competition, and this week you have some competition. You have the commissioner, the chairman, whatever you want to call him. Kristian Harloff is your opponent this week. So kind of give me your thoughts on this. How do you see this match going?
It would be an enormous mistake to underestimate Darth Harloff. If only because he looks at the right answers on a computer screen every single day. So you don't ask the questions that long without actually learning something. So I trust that Harloff is going to be an actual opponent. I would love to knock him out by the second round, but honestly, he's good. He's good. I'm not going to be a fool. I'm not going to underestimate him. I think this is going to be a bit of a slobber knocker, honestly. What I look forward to in this match is, come hell or high water, breaking his streak. Either I'm going to break his win streak, or if by some absolute miracle he ekes out a victory, I am sure as hell going to beat his KO victory. He has KO'd every person he's ever defeated. Now, he's still been defeated a lot, but he's KO'd every person he's ever defeated. And let me tell you something. If he thinks he's going to KO the Beast, he's got another thing coming. This is going to be a tough match. I do know my stuff, and he knows I know my stuff. And if he's smart, he's going to be studying just as hard as I am to come out on top in this match if he's lucky. So, Harloff, I'm coming for you. I'm going to growl my best, and I thoroughly intend to destroy you.
I nearly lost it on, I think it was Cancel Too Soon, when you were talking about when Kristian had called you out for the first time, and you said I'm actually going to just quote you verbatim, and this is a family show, so I'll have to bleep this out. But you said your exact quote was, "Bring it on, motherfucker." And I lost my mind. I thought that was awesome. So kudos to you for that one.
I've been wanting to challenge Kristian since day one, since before I even knew how it worked, and I didn't realize I couldn't just do that. I actually had to work my way up a ranking in order to get to a point where I was allowed to face Kristian because of the rules. I like Kristian a lot. He's a good guy, and he has created something pretty damn remarkable here, and I really want to show everyone that I'm smarter than him.
Did you guys ever talk at press screenings or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely, all the time. Like I said, I've known Kristian and Marc and at least one or two of the other people at the Schmoedown for years now, and we've talked briefly from time to time about doing something together. I did make one Schmo's appearance quite a few years ago, very, very briefly. That's right. Yeah, and they're great. They're great guys. I admire everything that they have done. They have, through sheer force of personality and knowledge and an incredible ability to leverage their connections and make really great, talented friends in this industry and build a loyal, dedicated, and deservedly so fan base. They have taken all of that skill and created a network and a brand that people associate with fun, entertainment, fan enthusiasm, comedy. They're fantastic. I respect the hell out of them, and that's one of the reasons why I was bugging them for so often to put me in there, because I wanted to sort of leech off of their success. That's a slight exaggeration. I admire what they do. I really, really wanted to be a part of it because I saw how good they were at it. And I wanted to learn from them, and I wanted to also show them, much like the Beast, I wanted to show them that I could contribute and I could be a valuable voice. And I've been doing that on my own in my own career. That's not to say that I've only been sort of knocking at their door, scratching like a lost kitten. But you know, they've got a wonderful audience. That's the thing I discovered most from doing all of this, is that schmoes and the various schmo persons who make up the community are some of the best people on the internet. They are smart, funny, dedicated, loyal. They love movies and TV. They love what they love, and they share what they love. And even when they compete, even when they get competitive, it's all in the spirit of good fun. And I think that is a mentality that we need a heck of a lot more of.
Well, let's close with this. I generally will ask this to everybody that is so kind enough to come on to our show, and I really appreciate your time. Is there anything that you want to say out there to the fans of the show and to your growling commandos, as you called it? I think that's t-shirt worthy. Any other messages you want to get out? Anything you want to say?
Yeah, I don't have like a beautifully prepared remark. I have but one life to give for Schmoeville. But I will say this. I would like to thank everybody who is a fan of the Beast for being a fan of the Beast. The Beast, whether he's a villain or just a misunderstood monster, appreciates your support. And he growls right with you. And he loves all of you. And he plans to destroy Kristian. He plans to destroy every single person in the Schmoedown. You know, Roca has a saying. He wants all the belts. He wants all the records. The Beast would like all the belts. The Beast would like all the records. But what the Beast wants more than anything else is to beat everybody. He wants to beat everybody in the league. He'll get back to JTE eventually. He'll be in there. He's going to be competing as long as he is allowed to compete. He's going to be doing big intros as long as he's allowed to do big intros. And meanwhile, I am going to be the person behind the Beast, William Bibbiani, doing the best I can to give you great content and make good podcasts, and hopefully, outside of the animalistic craziness that is the Beast, spread positive messages about how art is supposed to bring us all together and why it's important to have a voice that is your own and doesn't necessarily care about what the masses are thinking and is actually based on an honest-to-God personal opinion about what you're watching and what it means and the impact it can have. It doesn't matter if you're a fan of something if the movie sucks. So, yeah, that's what I'm about. And I talked a little bit about what the Beast is about. And it turns out that everyone in Schmoeville is about being awesome and being supportive and loving movie trivia and loving movies. And that's the best community to be a part of.
Well, before we let you completely go, we want to know where people can find you and what you have going on with podcasts and Cancel Too Soon. What's going on with those?
Well, the B Movies podcast is still going strong. We've been going for, I think around 400 episodes now of that, and we've had a lot of amazing guests. We recently did a Facebook Live thing with Paul W.S. Anderson. We recently had Joel Hodgson on there for over an hour to talk about the new Mystery Science Theater 3000. But in the meantime, we're reviewing movies and we're talking about movie news every single week for an hour to 2 hours. Just me, Whitney Seibold, answering a whole bunch of letters, trying to build our own community, and that's been really, really wonderful. Meanwhile, we have our own enterprise. The B Movies podcast is part of Crave Online, where I publish the majority of my work. But the Canceled Too Soon podcast is just me and Whitney Seibold. It's our idea, and we review television series that lasted only one season or less. And there's a lot of those shows that everyone knows about. Your Freaks and Geeks, your Adventures of Briscoe County Juniors, your original live-action version of The Flash. But what we're really about is trying to unearth the secret history of television. Because for every television series that people have heard of and are a fan of, there are dozens, if not hundreds more, that have been completely forgotten by history because they never found an audience. We are trying to find those. We are trying to build up a library of information about those, and we're trying to sort of unearth all of this history because I find that the majority of podcasts, even the best podcasts out there, are typically about the stuff that is popular. We want to talk about the stuff that is unpopular and hopefully potentially even make it popular again. And I've heard people talking about shows that no one had even heard of, that we unearthed perhaps in our first year, that now all of a sudden are finding a bit of a cult following, like the 100 Lies of Blackjack Savage, which is one of the most
incredible. What a great episode.
One of the weirdest things I have ever discovered. If you've never heard of 100 Lies of Blackjack Savage, real fast, you owe it to yourself. It is a show about, basically, not in everything but name, Donald Trump buys a haunted mansion in the Caribbean, teams up with the ghost of a black pirate, and solves mysteries using a sci-fi superboat. Stars Roma Downey Jr., Michael Chiklis was in it, Tobin Bell was in it, lasted for about 6 episodes. It was on the Wonderful World of Disney. Michael Eisner introduced it, saying what a big deal this was going to be. The opening credits are like some of the most racist thing you'll ever see. Like, it's just the most bizarre misfire. Some of the creators of the Final Destination movies. And you're just like, how did this happen? What happened? How did this get swept under the rug like this? It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And we're trying to discover stuff like that because that's the kind of stuff that never ends up on DVD. So we have to do a lot of searching. So that's Canceled Too Soon. We just started on Patreon. That's patreon.com/canceled too soon, cancel with 1 L. And we're offering exclusive episodes. We're offering merchandise. We're offering Google Hangouts. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to work on a book. It's going to be a really big deal. And I hope people join us on that journey because not a lot of people are taking it.
Yeah, absolutely. I came across 100 Lives of Blackjack Savage thanks to you guys. It's on YouTube, and it's exactly as you described it. It is interesting.
That's a very diplomatic way of putting it.
So thank you for that. But once again, sir, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know all of us as fans appreciate you taking the time, especially coming on a fan podcast. So thank you once again for that.
Well, thank you. And I got to tell you, I love your podcast. You guys give great, fun commentary. Often I find it very, very insightful. Sometimes I don't know what y'all are thinking, but I love it. And it's great. And it's the podcast basically, for the Schmoedown. And other than the Schmoes.
T-shirt.
So,
T-shirt.
There you go. And I want T-shirts. Why is no one making me T-shirts?
Why is there not a Growl Growl T-shirt?
Why are there no T-shirts?
Oh, yeah.
It writes itself. It literally writes itself. How hard is this? I don't understand.
Get on it, Schmoeville. Somebody
wear
in Schmoeville will make you one today if you ask.
Thank you. Make the T-shirts. Send Harloff T-shirts. I want at least a dozen T-shirts in Harloff's inbox by the end of the week. Let's make it happen.
And we're back. Told you guys what a great interview it was. Thanks again to the Beast for joining us. What a great dude. Now, with all that out of the way, with everything that he told us, all the insight that we have, Brian, it's going to be the Beast versus Darth Harloff. Who you got?
It's interesting because Kristian is not motivated by the singles belt in the same way that Rocha or the Beast is. He'll be able to play these matches in a more relaxed manner than Rocha, Merle, Beast, Riley, etc. He knows that if he loses, one of his top draws becomes one step closer to a title. Conversely, if he wins, he knows he's setting up a great match with a streaking Jeff Sneider who keeps proving his critics wrong, i.e. Frank Janisch. So when you're able to play with nothing to lose, it only helps Kristian's performance. I'm sure Kristian would prefer to lose, since he'd rather be a promoter, commissioner, announcer, while allocating the Schmoedown budget towards a new player that can bring in new viewers. That's why your double toasteds or your IGNs are so important to Kristian, as he's essentially using his budget to bring in new viewers, something that Team Schmoes matches just don't do. In the Beast case, he still has the weight of the world on his shoulders after a record-breaking debut, a heartbreaking loss to JTE, and a bounce-back match with Mountain Dewberry. He knows people still have huge expectations that he'll be battling McQueenie for the belt for years to come. However, as good as he knows he is, he still has to perform when his number is called. So, in this match, Kristian has nothing to lose, while the Beast has everything to gain and everything to lose. If William wins, he's within striking distance of a title. If he loses, he falls back down the ladder where McQueenie surprisingly is right now, and both will have to work their way back up to even sniff a #1 contender match by December. So I'm taking Kristian because it's easier to play when you don't have championship or record-breaking expectations hanging over your every match like the Beast, who was anointed as a future champion after just one match. The bummer about all this is we're still not going to get that Beast McQueenie match for a while because Kristian would rather square them off when they're on the upswing again. So I'm still taking Kristian, though.
Now, Frank, normally you have the moniker of the Stat Man, but now I've been reminded that Jeff Snyder refers to you as Chucklehead. What do you think of this match? How do you see it going?
Yes, Chucklehead. Yeah, that's great.
Embrace it, Frank.
Yes,
embrace
yes.
it.
No, yeah, it's great. But here's the thing with Bibbiani and Harloff. There's still not a whole lot to go off of Bibbiani. Yes, everyone anointed him after that first amazing match. It's hard not to. I think everyone was a prisoner of the moment, if you will, with that match. And then we saw what happened with JTE and scores and soundtracks. He just happened to get some that he did not know. And that's the way it goes. But I've been crunching the numbers for these two, specifically for this match, because of this match. What I found is, certain players have strengths and weaknesses, and there's a lot more to go on with Harloff since he's had so many matches. He's had 8 matches already, or not already, thus far. And some of the categories, I should say, he's been tested the most in: comedy, fantasy, sci-fi, action-adventure. He gets a lot of those questions, and he does pretty well in those categories. Fantasy, sci-fi, he's answering 77%. Action-adventure, 74%. In the comedy, he's upward 60-67%. He's pretty good with those. And then if you look at Bibbiani's limited run right now, he's pretty accurate throughout. There's only a few that he's half and half, only because he hasn't had that many questions in them. For one, crime/mob movies, I've counted him as only having to answer 2. He's got 1 out of 2. In the Oscars category, he's 2 of 3. But if you look at comedies, he's 83%. Classics, 6 of 7. Action adventure, he's answering 70%. And then he hasn't missed any kind of question in animated, biopics, drama, fantasy, sci-fi, westerns. And those are about 6 questions or less. Fantasy sci-fi, though, he's 11-11. So that's another strong suit, just as it is for Harloff. They line up really well. So my thinking for the past couple of weeks is it's going to be tit for tat in this one. It's going to be, I think, a high-scoring match. And I think Kristian is just barely going to squeak it out. I've been thinking that for the past couple of weeks, just because of the fact that he's not really chasing the title. He's just on this revenge tour. We've always heard for a little while now that he was planning to take a back seat, but he just keeps winning. And I think as the Schmoedown goes, nothing goes according to plan. And I think when Harloff decided he wanted to take on the Beast, he thought, this looks like a good match that I could probably lose. I'm speculating, of course, but that's why I think Kristian's going to win, but just barely.
I respect Kristian's mentality. There was a great professional wrestler that once said, I'm not greedy for money, I'm greedy for respect. And I think that's what Kristian is going for. Yeah, he's the commissioner. Yeah, he's got TKOs and KOs. But he wants to test his mettle against the perceived best players in this league. And what better way to do that to add another TKO/KO to his resume against the Beast, a feared competitor. Let's not undersell it. It doesn't matter that JT beat Bibbiani. It doesn't matter because he's still the Beast. I hear what you're saying. I hear your stats. I heard both of your analysis. Very well done. I'm sticking with Bibbs on this one, guys. I can't help it. I just think that it's going to be too much for Kristian to overcome. I'm taking the Beast, not just because I'm a fan, but I am taking the Beast for sure. Hashtag that one. Growl, growl. And if you can tell me who said that quote, I will give you 5 bonus points. Guys, we're excited for these matches. That's why we're doing a special for you. We hope you enjoyed it. And don't forget to check us out every Saturday on SK Plus for the Schmoedown Rundown. It drops every Saturday afternoon, so don't miss it. For Frank Janisch, Brian Davids, I'm Aaron Turner, and we will see you Saturday.